Barakata Yahweh, Barakata Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakahakwadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. In peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya coming at you with another lesson, and I'm going to start it off with this post from an app called Newsbreak, which comes up with a lot of, good information, on various different things going on at the local, national, or international level. And I believe, this is from a repost from Twitter from Tom Fan. The Pentagon is now actively monitoring military and civilian social media for any reaction, good or bad, to the shocking deletion of CK. That means even jokes or celebrations could trigger official action. When the defense secretary publicly calls out this kind of behavior, you know it's serious. Social media isn't just public, it's being watched at the highest levels. Just wild how quickly the digital world and national security can collide. And hey, with the fallout of that recent deletion of CK, you're seeing the Trump administration go hard in so-called tampering down on hate speech, but really it's just a play at free speech. He's being the martyr to take away your rights, so to speak. And as it says in 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 11, lest Satan should get an advantage of us. And you've got the spiritual demon Satan, and then you've got his physical counterpart on the face of the earth, Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. We know through the Spirit what this is ultimately leading towards, the famine of the word, the censoring of, this truth, keeping the men of the Lord from going out onto the highways and byways to preach this word, and especially putting these video epistles online, because these elites know what it's hitting for. As it says in Matthew chapter 24, verse 14, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, which it has been, through the unicorn or the internet. And then the next part says, and then shall the end come. Hey, with our apostles and elders of GMS going on to YouTube back in 2007, all the way to 2025. Look at all the massive changes that have happened in that amount of time. We are at the end of the age of the Gentiles, the heathen nations ruling, chiefly of the Edomites. We've only got a few more prophecies before the second coming of Yahushua to save his elect and to put an end to these heathens' rulership. And hey, like I just said, these elites know what it's hitting for. They know that they are Edomites, and that when the prophets are out prophesying in the nation of Israel, which consists of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, as well as the Israelite foreigners who look like these heathens, are waking up and calling on the true names of their power, Yahweh, Yahushai, whatever heathen nation that's ruling at the time is going to be taken out of power. So they're about to pull out all the stops to avert biblical prophecy and keep their rulership going, ultimately fulfill their NWO. Which, before we get into that, this is Revelation chapter 12, verse 12. Therefore rejoice ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe or destruction to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil, that deceiver, Esau, Edom, specifically their elites, like the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. Again, these elites see the writing on the wall, so they're about to pull out all the stops, to avert biblical prophecy from coming to its fulfillment. And this whole situation, and I'll put that in quotes, that happened with CK is the perfect, cover to clamp down on free speech and, censor social media and the internet. Which brings me to this article on commondreams.org. Hiding behind Captain Kirk. Team Trump launches biggest assault on the First Amendment in modern U.S. history. And I gotta say, DJ Donald Trump, Emperor Nero in the reincarnation, is probably the biggest puppet president that this country has ever seen. Which, all the presidents have been puppets for the bigger powers, but Trump is just such an outright prostitute for the bigger powers. It's just I can't think of a word to use right now. It's just so blatant and on the nose that it just seems like a parody. But hey, the title speaks for itself. This is the time where every American must stand proudly for free speech and our freedoms, said Representative Ro Khanna. U.S. President puppet Donald Trump and his administration have been signaling that they are planning to use the deletion of right-wing activist Captain James T. Kirk as a justification to launch a broad campaign targeting their political opponents. And at the top of the list are the men of the Lord. I've referenced this in several videos before, and I wish I could have got a screenshot of it. But back, during those George Floyd protests during Trump's first presidency, in the summer of 2020, I believe it was, Trump posted on Twitter, and it only was up there for like 10 seconds. A brother had sent it in our chat. I looked at it, and then when I went to look at it again and take an image, it was scrubbed. But Donald Trump said, I bet the black, because they like to put that moniker on us, the black Hebrew Israelites are happy to see us tearing ourselves apart, referencing those protests and just how crazy, it was during that summer with those riots and all that. But that just goes to show you that the powers that be and Donald Trump know exactly who we are and know the power that comes with our preaching. Hence, why we're not ignorant of Satan's devices. Everything is being used to persecute the truth in the men of the Lord. This is Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 43. The king of Babylon, Babylon the Great, the United States of America, which is, ultimately the elites, but who's their front man? The president. So the king of Babylon, Donald Trump, hath heard the report of them, the prophets, and his hands waxed feeble. Anguish took hold of him, and pangs as of a woman in travail. Because they watch our videos, they see us lining up the prophecies with current events, and they see that everything we're saying is coming to pass quickly. So the devil is coming down in great wrath because he hath but a short time. They're in overdrive right now. Trump advisor Stephen Miller on Monday signaled out left-wing organizations that he baselessly alleged were promoting violence in the United States, and he said that the full weight of the federal government would soon come down on them. We are going to use every resource we have at the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, and throughout this government to identify, disrupt, dismantle, and destroy these networks and make America safe again for the American people, said Miller. Shortly after this, Attorney General Pam Bondi appeared on the podcast hosted by Miller's wife, Katie Miller, and vowed that the Justice Department would go after people who engage in hate speech against conservatives. There's free speech and then there's hate speech, and there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to CK in our society, Bondi said. We will absolutely target you, go after you, if you are targeting anyone with hate speech. But in this climate out here, what qualifies as hate speech? And already right now, as we read from that Twitter post, and you can find online, people have been getting fired from their jobs, whether in the government to private sector jobs, because they've been, posting about the CK situation. And, it's the proper authorities have been notified and their employers have let them go. So if it's already starting hard on this level, imagine going forward, not just with the CK situation, but when other incidences happen to, further clamp down on free speech and bring about internet censorship. But this is Isaiah chapter 28. I'm going to start at verse 18. And this goes back to that Jeremiah 50 verse 43. The king of Babylon hath heard their report, and his hands waxed feeble, and he felt pangs as of a woman in travail. This is what these Edomites, especially these elites, have always feared. And in that day shall the deaf hear the words of the book, and the eyes of the blind shall see out of obscurity and out of darkness. The spiritual ears and eyes of the Israelites, beginning with the elect, opening up and them coming back to their power. Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. And when you read in the book of Judith, in the Apocrypha, when Israel would start calling back on their power, that's when the Lord would come back unto them and take down any enemy that was afflicting them. Hence why you're seeing such a great shakeup in the earth right now, and Esau being revealed and him losing grip on power. The meek also shall increase their joy in Yahweh, and the poor among men shall rejoice in the Holy One of Israel, because now we finally have our identity and we know what's to come, the kingdom of heaven, where we're going to be ruling this planet and ruling over these heathens for the rest of eternity, and that America and us being second-class citizens, so-called black, Latino, Native American, nigger, spick, isn't the end-all be-all. Verse 20, for the terrible one is brought to naught, and the scorner is consumed, and all that watch for iniquity are cut off. And that's happening right now with the men of the Lord prophesying, chiefly of GMS or Great Millstone, as well as the brothers coming in the spirit of GMS, who, if the spirit's dealing with you, you can clearly see that Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai has laid his tabernacle on us. But, we're doing that right now, exposing Esau through the scriptures, like what? The spiritual prosecution team, so that when it's time for the judge to come, Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, he's been convicted and he's going to get that sentence. Verse 21, that make a man an offender for a word, the words of truth, the words of prophecy, the words in these scriptures, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate, and turn aside the just for a thing of naught, which is exactly what we're reading right now. This whole CK situation is being used as a snare to make a man of the Lord, an offender for a word. And let's reread this paragraph. We are going to use every resource we have at the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, and throughout this government to identify, disrupt, dismantle, and destroy these networks and make America safe again for the American people, said Miller. While many prominent conservatives denounced Bondi's remarks and reiterated that hate speech is protected by the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, Trump himself appeared to give her views his endorsement. When asked by ABC News reporter Jonathan Karl about Bondi's comments on Tuesday, listen to this, the president signaled that he would favor prosecuting journalists on hate speech charges. We'll probably go after people like you because you treat me so unfairly, Trump said in response to Karl's question. You have a lot of hate in your heart. And with the way Trump's moving, in Isaiah chapter 19, verse 4, it's damn sure looking like he's that cruel Lord, that fierce king set to rule over Egypt, spiritual Egypt, another name for America, to oppress you people. Taking away what? Government benefits, instituting these tariffs, which is making the cost of living crisis that much worse, and now taking away your ability to what? Complain about it. Trump then pointed to the $16 million defamation settlement he agreed to with Disney after ABC News host George Stephanopoulos said on air last year that Trump had been found liable for graping journalist E. Jean Carroll, when in fact the jury had technically only found Trump liable for sexually abusing her. ABC paid me $16 million recently for a form of hate speech, Trump said. Your company paid me $16 million for a form of hate speech, right? So maybe they'll have to go after you. Speaking spicy on a live interview. These developments have caused widespread alarm among some Democratic politicians. Representative Ro Khanna of California posted a video on social media in which he warned that Trump and his administration were engaging in the biggest assault on the First Amendment in our country's modern history. He then pointed to statements made by Vice President J.D. Vance, Stephen Miller, and Bondi, and he encouraged his supporters to be willing to confront dangers to American liberty. This is the time where every American must stand proudly for hate speech and our freedoms, he said, which is a moot point because there will be internet censorship and, online monitoring and more people getting doxxed and arrested and, persecuted for giving their opinions. But the main target in all this is going to be the men of the Lord, because our words are the only thing that has any power out here. Again, ever since our apostles and elders came onto YouTube back in 2007, look at the cataclysmic shifts that have been taking place in the earth. That's it with this article. But now I'm going to close it out in Amos chapter 8, verses 11 to 13. The end-all, be-all to where all this is leading. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord Yahweh, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, though those things are coming as well, but of hearing the words of Yahweh, the famine of the word, where we're no longer going to be out in public preaching, and these video epistles are damn sure not going to be online. And they shall wander from sea to sea, and from the north even to the east. They shall run to and fro to seek the word of Yahweh, and shall not find it. Just going to show how, detrimental the famine of the word's going to be. In that day shall the fair virgins and young men faint for thirst spiritually, because when all hell truly breaks loose, that's when, the majority of our people are going to be looking for answers, and the Lord's going to put it on your spirit to remember that the prophets told you these things were going to come to pass. But, for the majority of you, when you go to try to find this word, hey, you're not going to find it. And you're going to have to take all that horrific judgment, that death by pain, as it says in 2 Esdras chapter 9, that's going to come your way. And as it also says in Ezekiel chapter 33, verse 33, and when these things shall come to pass, and lo, they will come, then shall they know that a prophet hath been among them. So that's it with this video. With this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharallah, and until next time, Shalom.